on any items on today's agenda, which is the council budget and goal setting workshop.
Mayor, you have a slip.
Mayor, I have one.
Thank you.
And where should I call someone forward? Is there a microphone for the public?
Here.
Right here. Mary Eileen Farrell.
Good morning. I'm Mary Eileen Farrell. I'm a resident of Watergate. I've lived there for 20 years, live on 5 Admiral. And some citizens there started a group we call the Watergate Residents Oversight Group to deal with some quality of life issues. I don't know if I'm speaking into this. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just to
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And I collected some issues along with our particular issues to share today. These have come from Emeryville citizens and members of our particular group. In housing, we would hope that the city of Emeryville will address the gentrification issues that are causing seniors to have to relocate out of the city boundaries because of the high rise in rent. We hope for some kind of rent control and additional senior housing. We know you have some things in planning, but we hope that you'll carry it further and do it quickly to keep our viable, wonderful senior citizens here in town. Regarding safety, we love the additional support from the police department. We think they're wonderful, and we love our liaison officer and our crime statistics reports we've been getting for Watergate. We would like to have continued high enforcement and patrol of our area. Regarding social services, we hope that the city will come up with some kind of program to get services to the homeless people of Emeryville. We have a large group. They're either living on the boats in the marina or in the park by the marina, and they are overflowing into Watergate, going into our dumpsters, getting into our cars, and doing other things that desperate people do. We feel like we need mitigation, and we also would like to see a city ordinance to ban camping in Emeryville parks, including the marina area. It's become a little bit scary to take an evening stroll through the marina area because of the large number of people living there. We want to applaud the work that you all are doing toward changing the noise ordinance. There are several people on the City Council working on this. We hope you will continue. We hope you will look closely at the Richmond noise ordinance, which is outstanding, and also continue helping with mitigation of the Trader Vic's noise that flows over to the residents of Watergate. I'm almost done. In the future, we want to work toward working with the city in some capacity regarding smoke pollution from barbecue pits and marijuana smoke and cigarette smoke that invade our homes. We always want support for the Emeryville, and we hope that you will widely advertise the tax rebatement for seniors for the Emeryville, and let's see, we hope that you never tax homeowners associations for the Emeryville because that will affect our people with a fixed income. We would like to see the Public Works pick up trash at bus stops more often. That's overflowing. And we would like to have the median on Powell Street weeded. It's got beautiful new flowers, and it's now being choked with weeds. And quickly remove graffiti. That covers everything that I have for today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who would like to speak? Rob?
Hi, Rob Arias. I live in the Park Avenue District Committee. I write the Evil Eye Community News. I've never been privy to a goal-setting workshop, so I don't really know what the expectations are. My takeaway would, for me personally, would like to be that that my specific neighborhood have some kind of representation. You know, back in March, I used to be on the Park Avenue District Committee. That committee was eliminated. And I think the idea at the time was that there's going to be a larger neighborhood coalition, or I don't know what the exact terminology was, but I haven't heard anything from that. Again, coming up on a year. How do I get representation for our neighborhood? There's issues we have. I've talked to you all individually. It's just very hard to move the needle on these things that these initiatives. When I was in the Park Avenue District Committee, you know, we were working on things. We had projects. We wanted banners, you know, on Park Avenue District, and there just was no vehicle to do this. So the takeaway I want is, how do I move things forward? How can I move the needle on initiatives, you know, for my neighborhood and improve my neighborhood? I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public?
Hello, Ken Bukowski. First, I want to thank you for your passionate speech about medical marijuana the other day. It was right on. I'm glad we're coming into the 21st century here. The other thing I want to talk about is the city committees. I think reducing the size of those committees and cutting the amount of time they meet was a problem. It really has. I'm on the Economic Development Committee. I'm on the Bike Committee. I go to the other meetings. It's the Housing Committee. It's really takes away the energy and the spirit if you don't meet more frequently. And then if you miss a meeting, it's 4 months until you get to the next one. And it just, I just don't think that was a good idea. We're not really ready to do neighborhood councils. I do record the Berkeley neighborhood council meetings, and you know, they're like having a big meeting, but they don't seem as community-minded as it sounded when we looked at it in the beginning. And then on the regional front, you have the MTC and ABAG potential merger. I think, well, the resolution that creates the merger effort says that if they don't merge, that MTC gets to take over the ABAG planning department. So there really isn't much incentive on MTC's part to agree to a merger. And that's a problem because there's no structure of input into MTC, and the staff controls the commission. So and then, so the Bay Area Economic Institute made a presentation to MTC, and they're looking for a regional appeals board. So when housing projects are not approved on a local level, they want to create this regional appeals board. And these seem to be the people that support MTC taking over planning. So I think it's something we really need to pay attention to, and thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, so we need, Good morning, Brad.
I wasn't sure about the format, so I didn't know if there were future opportunities.
There will be.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll talk later.
Okay. Very good. So can we move along? So Mr. Isofano, please.
Very good. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and council members, staff, and residents of Emeryville. Daniel Isofano.
You're going to have to use the microphone.
And I am a strategic planner, urban planner, and facilitator. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to work with you again in this goal-setting council session. Some years ago, I had the opportunity to work with the city, not only with the council and on the goal setting, but also on the general plan and park and recreation master plan. So I have some familiarity with the city. I live close by, and I've just been very impressed with the efforts that you've made here to create a truly transformative city. I know you've gone through several iterations of redevelopment, and the city just keeps getting better and better from my perspective. So I congratulate all of you for your collective efforts in that regard. So the session today is based on a similar format, but with some changes and hopefully enhancements to really focus on the city council discussion and make sure that all of you have an opportunity to share your ideas and sense of what the key issues are and the priorities are for the city, and ultimately that will to help guide staff. At the same time, we have staff here, department heads, to provide input, to provide some of the technical backup and details that will help in supporting your discussion, but we really wanted to focus on the council members here. And as the mayor said earlier, I'll be taking notes to keep track in real time of the big ideas and the points that come along so that we can refer to that in the course of the discussion. Also, we will have the representatives of the various city commissions and boards and committees to draw upon at various points. Members of the community also will have an opportunity to comment. So this is intended to be a more informal work session with the focus being the council, but we want to be able to move the microphone around at key points to be able to get everybody into the conversation ultimately. So we did want to also, just at this early juncture, invite the council members to say, you know, from your perspective, what it is you hope we get out of the session today. And we put that up on the board and use that as a focal point. So we make sure we end up with the outcomes that you would like to see from today. And this will evolve. The session is flexible, so we'll want to make sure that that we cover all the things that will make this truly a worthwhile discussion, and not only for guiding staff, but for the community at large. So any council members, can you perhaps comment on what it is you would hope we would achieve out of today's work session?
Ruth?
So perhaps it's more than what we can do in 4 hours, but what I see after lunch is roughly categories mapping onto different, many of the different city departments. And maybe we need, after support services on the back page, we need to add another one about city council goals, separate as a department of the city. And what's prompting this comment is I think the 5 of us have different priorities around policy initiatives that we want to bring forward, and I think we need to prioritize them. Yeah. And I'm very cognizant that most of our policy initiatives end up falling on the legal department in terms of ordinances and other kinds of things that have to, regulations and other things that have to be put in place. And so I think we need our policy initiatives may impact some of our city departments, but they also transcend that. Mm-hmm. So I would like to come out of today with some sense of priority for our legal department.
Okay, very good, thank you. And I'm making a note of that. Other council members for your comments? Yes, Scott?
When I think of goals, I think that what you have to say are some basic things about the future and what's the meaning of life. I mean, this is not something we discuss at the council in general, but today we're talking about the future. What makes for a good future in our town? And I think one of the things that makes for a good future is a healthy environment for all. And a healthy environment includes public safety, knowing that you're at low risk for walking and biking on our streets, for existing in our town, that it's safe from crime and potential problems that way, but also the physical environment. I'm standing up on purpose because we sit down too much as a species originally. I mean, getting back to first principles, we were nomadic as a species. We did not do what we're doing right now, sitting around. We walked continuously. Only since agriculture did people sit around. And so if you look at the design of a city, it should encourage people walking around. And objectively, we shouldn't be behind desks. We should all be walking and talking and not sitting and talking. Just from an objective biological look at our species. And if we go forward and look at our city that way, I think it'll be very instructive. Sidewalks need to be wide enough so that you can stroll and talk to somebody when we have obstacles in the way. Or, you know, when I'm trying to chat with my friend Randall, who's in his wheelchair, and we come up to obstacles in the sidewalk, and our discussion is halted, and just things, issues like this, that the design of our city matters for its civility. And same thing with our public transit. Predictability makes for a more civil place. If we can have a very predictable Emery-go-round in and out of our city, I think we'll have a better city to live in. Of course, the stress from the tech industry causing our housing prices to skyrocket. This is a major stress factor on a lot of our residents. We have to figure out a way to have livability include not being ejected from our city. So, if I'm thinking about goals, and these are what I perceive of as the major issues for our city. And also, cities have an aesthetic component. What is the quality of life like? What does it look like? What's it smell like? What does it feel like, neighborhood to neighborhood? Is it a boring place? Is it an interesting place? Having an interesting city makes for a higher quality of life. And livability and the quality of life matter on a very small scale. And one of the things that we can do as a species is lifelong, we can learn. That is a fabulous thing that we have as a species. So I think anything that helps encourage learning, I think, is aesthetically desirable. And we have a school district. We have potentially all kinds of ways to facilitate earning and learning and exercise in our city to make sure that we can have the right ratio of food and exercise. And I just think this is the basis for how we should set our goals going forward in that just broad way.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Yes, Mayor?
Well, I can tell we're going to be hearing a lot of great ideas today from my colleagues, from our appointed officials, from our staff, and from the public. And I'm really looking forward to getting these all on paper and everyone walking away with a sense that they've been heard and a sense that council is really focusing on getting these ideas together and coming out of here with a list of goals that we have all made together and that we've prioritized together. And there's a clear vision, especially for our staff moving forward. There are a lot of new heads of staff. There are a lot of new staff members that have come on board in the last year, and I think this is a really positive step, and I'm looking forward to today.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you very much. Jack?
For me, I'm looking forward to hearing from the public and from my colleagues, and I'm also thinking about this in terms of Emeryville becoming and thinking more along the lines of a post-redevelopment city, what it'll mean for tax increment to start flowing back to us, and how we build up truly excellent services in our town. I want services that we can be really proud of in our city, and that was part of the deal with the tax increment. We held back that money, and it should be flowing back to us, and we've experienced a lot of growth, and I think that there's a need to put more money and devote more money towards services. I also want to be mindful of the, while I too get very excited about that CIP list and building new things, I want to be mindful of the infrastructure that we've already built up, and I don't want it to degrade. And so for me, the parks and the bicycle infrastructure that we've already built needs to be maintained and needs to be improved. So that's also something that I'm going to be looking out for. And then as I hear from the public and my colleagues, one of the ways that I will be kind of contextualizing our discussion today is thinking about the need for more resources. And so for me, this will be an indicator of what we should be doing going forward, whether that's a need to look at a more diverse tax base, or at ballot measures, or in terms of our capital improvements, thinking about bonds. And all of those, the way that we fund what we want in our city is an important piece of that for me. So today I want to listen a lot to what people have to say, and then I think part of my job will be to translate how, with my colleagues, how best to get there.
Very good. Thank you very much. Nora, any key points here for us to consider?
Well, I join with Jack in saying that the real thing I'm looking for here is to listen to the council, to the staff members, and to the public in consideration of forming the goals. But while we do that, we have to be very cognizant of the fact you can have all the wonderful goals in the world, but the implementation part of the goal has to be considered while you're thinking about the goals themselves. So I hope we get started and have at it. This is going to be a good session. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Well, we're already off to a good start there. And Carolyn, did you have anything else to add just from a staff leadership perspective and what you hope that
Sure.
council will guide in the way of staff work going forward?
Sure, and for the council members, I think I speak for the rest of staff that we are looking for very specific goals. I mean, we always start with the broader, areas of our quality of life and so on, but to get it down, of course, to measurable, very specific, so that staff can deliver what you're looking for.
Okay, we will make sure we do that as we go through the session. So we'll check back. And just to review the discussion outline that we've said, again, prior to the session today, and the mayor and the city manager and I met along with staff too, to make sure we created a good open framework for discussion. And we thought a good way to start when we do this kind of strategic planning and look back and look ahead, we like to know what is our current position. Where do we stand as a city and within the Bay Area? You always want to know what we've done in the recent past to be successful, and you certainly have a lot of accomplishments to note, and it's not to dwell on that, but just to see within that, it might give us clues as to where some of our distinctive competencies are and what we can build on moving forward. Current trends, key statistics, and fun facts, as it were, about the city that maybe people know intuitively about Emeryville, but maybe it's nice to bring that out a little bit more sharply, along with what are some of the major issues and challenges. Some of that we heard in the opening comments from council. So we want to do this sort of Emeryville today, the snapshot. That's the first part of the session, part one. Kind of make sure we understand our current position, where we are right now. Then lunch, and then we talk about the future, goal setting, and as you said, and as was just mentioned by the city manager, what are some of the ways we can measure and define success? I think we want to hear from the council about that, because that gives us some insights as to what's really valuable, what's really important, because you measure what you consider the most important things, and that's going to guide staff in the ultimate budget process too. And we go on to identify some potential strategies and actions. As was mentioned, we have different topics there that sort of loosely follow the categories of the city departments, but they were meant to be much broader, and all of these things are so interconnected, we didn't want to be restricted by any of these categories. And there's always the proverbial other to add into it in case we miss something, so that's not meant to be a limiting factor. And then very much toward the end of the session, we will break from the brainstorming and the idea generation and really ask the council to help on this priority setting process, so Roman 4 on the agenda. So we have a lot to do before 3 o'clock. We'll make sure we stay on schedule, and I know we can do it. We've done it in the past, and this is a dynamic group and a dynamic community. So we have a lot to say, but we have a lot of time here. We'll manage it as best we can. So with that, I'd like to move us right into this snapshot assessment. So asking council maybe for your thoughts? What are some of the things you're most proud of? The things that happened in the last 2 years, last 5 years, that really you're particularly noteworthy to you, and that you think helped to really build the quality Emeryville that we have today. What are some of those things? And we wanted to make this pretty free flow, so you just jump right in, and I'll try to guide it to make sure we get all the key points up here as we go along in the session today. So, yes, Mayor.
Well, one thing that's happening right now that I'm extremely proud of is bike share moving forward in Emeryville, because I think not only is bike share going to be important moving forward, last mile solutions to keep cars off the road. It's one of our greatest problems in terms of climate that we've got single occupancy vehicles coming into Emeryville, and the more solutions that we can find to make sure that folks who want to come into Emeryville, to enjoy Emeryville, who live in Emeryville, who need to get around, have these multimodal options. So I'm extremely proud that this is happening right now. I'm hoping we can expand on it in the future, and I see someone from staff, Nancy, who would like to make a statement.
Audience, I just want to say that we're having a sighting workshop on February 11th in this chamber, and members of the public should come and weigh in on where the stations should go.
Cool. Great.
Right.
Excellent.
So we've got a dynamic problem of traffic increasing in our community and density increasing, so many things that are happening, and at the same time, we've got our wonderful staff and our community getting behind these ideas that are going to help us to mitigate this, the greenhouse gases going into our air and keeping our sidewalks and our streets more livable. So that's something that I'm definitely very supportive of, and I'm glad is happening.
Great, thank you. Other key successes, notable accomplishments? Yes, Norm?
I'd like to bring attention to something that we don't think about very often, and that's the basic infrastructure of an over 100-year-old city. And our Public Works Department has been literally not only improving above the ground, but below the ground. We have to pay attention, we think about Flint, Michigan. We got to pay attention to the sewer pipes, the electrical system. All that infrastructure not only has to be maintained, but we are constantly improving it. And the sidewalk effort that we made on the east side, I think, is something that you don't see it much, but it absolutely contributes to the quality of life here. And additionally, another service that we're seeing some significant changes in is the public safety. Since we've contracted out to Alameda County, we have leveraged our resources for fighting fires or even other problems that are arising. And the police department is seeing significant changes, improving. So these are things that it's not a structure you can point to, but it immeasurably adds to the quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, great. What are some other noteworthy points here to put on the board? Successes, Jack?
I think I would co-sign onto what my colleagues have said here, and I'd also like to point out the growth that we've had in community services around youth programming, that we've had many more families being served through our community services program, especially with the introduction of sliding scale and making sure that things like our camps and things that happen during break in order to serve working families are something that that people in Emeryville can really rely upon. So I think that's been a notable success.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, great. Other points, Scott?
Some of our streets are looking better pavement. Our tree growth is continuing. Our air pollution, given how long I've been in town, is dramatically less than it used to be. Our soils are cleaner than they used to be, and these things matter in the long run going forward. So I think that's significant.
That's great. Good. Yes, thank you. Ruth?
I would be negligent if I didn't say that the partnership with the school district is seeing a major milestone this year with the opening of the Center of Community Life, and it is really the embodiment of being able to support being able to offer something to every Emeryville resident anywhere in the lifespan. And it's not just a brick and mortar, but it's a project, but it's a melding of programs as well. And there isn't any other jurisdiction in the country that works that closely with the two elected public entities, the school district and city councils. Nowhere else in the country is that kind of close working partnership.
Yeah, and you shouldn't take it for granted either, because we don't see that in every community, to be sure. And you mentioned ECCL. That's one-of-a-kind type of facility. To see that actually coming out of the ground is also very exciting, too. Yes, sir.
Bill Reuter. I serve on the Budget Advisory Committee for the city, once called the Finance Advisory Committee for the city. My compliments to the finance side of the House staffers for refinancing the city debt. That was a very, very good, solid move. Brought the total debt, interest cost to the city down by millions of dollars over the long haul. That puts us in a better financial situation than we would have been in the past. All honors to the finance side, staff side of the House. Thanks.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, there's probably a lot more you can fill up the board with, and if you think of something important, we can add. But we also wanted to understand what are some of the current trends as we understand our current position as a city. Where are we right now today? Where are things heading? Is the population growing? Are we generating more child population? Are we changing demographically or culturally or racially? You know, these are some questions you want to know. What's the trend with respect to housing affordability? Well, we probably kind of know that one, but, you know, can we quantify some of these things so we have a sense of the magnitude of change that's occurring? That's the one thing we do know is happening out there. And I know staff are primed and able to bring in some of these fun facts, and some council members are certainly welcome to chime in and ask questions, and committee and commission members as well. So, Charlie, did you want to give us a few key points where that's concerned, and just to help us understand more of that set of trend lines that guide our city?
Sure. See if I can get this off here. Or actually, could I borrow your wireless mic? Thank you. Well, I didn't evaluate our current position versus previous, so I'm afraid I can't show you how we compared, say, to 10 years ago or so. But here is a chart that I'm sure you've all seen before that shows our trajectory. Daniel mentioned that our population is increasing. Can everybody see? So, as you probably all know, when we started out over 100 years ago, just a few hundred people, it went up to about 2,500 at the beginning of the 20th century, and pretty much leveled off during the entire period that Emeryville was an industrial city. And there was really virtually no new residential being built since the older residential neighborhoods were first built in the 1910s and 20s. Then around 1970, the population started to increase as the industries left and residential development started to occur. Notably, the first two big ones were Watergate in the 70s and Pacific Park Plaza in the 80s, but of course there were others. And by the 2010 census, we were up to 10,000, a little over 10,000. Then the rest of these this dotted line and the rest of these points indicate the Association of Bay Area Government, ABAG's most recent projections. This is projections 13. I believe they're working on projections 15 now, but those have not been released yet. So this is where they say we're going, and our general plan is more or less consistent with this. One thing I would say, though, is that for 2015 they were a little off. They have us at 11,781 in 2015. The actual estimate from the State Department of Finance, which is based on housing construction, is 10,570. So they're about 1,000 higher than what we really were. But having said that, they project 13,500 by 2020. That's possible, given the units that are currently in the pipeline. We might get to that point, or we might not. It might be a little lower than that. I think it's interesting, though, to note our resident population versus our daytime population. So, as I said, 10,570 is what the state says our resident population is, but we estimate that the number of people who are in Emeryville in the daytime is 3 times that amount, about 32,000. And that's kind of an educated guess, but what it's based on is about half the resident population staying in town during the day. Not workers, but people who stay in town. They're retired folks or children or whatever who are just in town during the day. There's another 1,200 Emeryville residents who work here, so they're staying in town, but they're working. Then there's 21,000 people who commute into Emeryville to work from outside the city. And then, this is really just a rough guess in consultation with our traffic consultants, about 6,300 additional people who come to Emeryville for a variety of reasons, including shopping and school and personal business and other things like that. So that all adds up to about 32,000. I won't go through, I've got a ton of charts here, but I'm not going to show them all to you. But I do just want to highlight this. Some of the council members have seen this before from a previous budget workshop. This is from 2010, so it hasn't been updated, but I don't think it's changed very much. This is the residential pattern in Emeryville, and it shows 2 things that I think are kind of interesting. If you look at Oakland and Berkeley to the east, you can see their population is pretty evenly spread out. Emeryville's population tends to be clustered in high-density developments. So we have Pacific Park Plaza and Watergate and Bay Street and other places that are pretty high density, but then between those we have big areas where nobody lives, like Pixar campus and Novartis, Grifols campus, and various shopping centers and IKEA and so forth. And interestingly, if you were to take these dots and spread them out evenly across the city, you'd find that our residential population, believe it or not, the density is about the same as Piedmont. We have slightly fewer people than Piedmont and a slightly smaller area, and if you divide one by the other, the density works out about the same. But Piedmont doesn't have those 32,000 people coming into the city during the day. The other thing that this shows is how diverse our population is in terms of ethnicity. Each dot represents 25 people, and the colors represent the different races. And as you can see, there's no single group that predominates. Our population is about 45% white, about 15% black, about 25% Latino, and about 10%, about 25% Asian, 10% Latino, and 5% other. I have a number of other fun facts about demographics and building permit data. I don't know if you want to go through all that. I can point out what they are. Let me see. I think, here we go. Oh, actually, yeah, one other thing I do want to show you, which is indicative of how Emeryville is different from other cities, and that is our regional housing needs allocation. That's the that's kind of government jargon. RENA is what we call it. But what that is the number of units that we have been assigned basically by the state, and then that's been handed down to us from ABAG for the number of total units, and it's broken down by affordable categories, but I'm only going to talk about the total units right now, that we're expected to produce in the next 8 years, between 2014 and 2022. So if you look at the numbers, and I don't think I can get this entire chart on here. Well, maybe I can. Yeah, I guess I can. So if you look at the top chart, this represents all 101 cities in the Bay Area, plus the unincorporated areas of the 9 counties. This is the absolute number of units that each city is projected to or expected to produce over the next 8 years. Now, obviously, the big ones are going to be San Jose, which is over 30,000, San Francisco, and Oakland. And Emeryville is over here in the yellow. Our arena number is 1,498, just a little shy of 1,500 units, which doesn't sound like a lot. And when you look at the other cities, we're kind of down there among the other smaller cities. But if you take our 1.2 square mile and divide that 1,500 number by 1.2 square miles and convert that into a units per square mile factor and compare that to all the other cities in the Bay Area, that's the bottom chart. So this is us. This is San Francisco. Wow. And everybody else is way down here. So that'll just give you some sense of how Emeryville, that plus our daytime population, will give you some sense of how Emeryville is different from other cities of comparable size. I have some data that some of you have seen before about population of children, single-person households. Educational attainment. We are a very highly educated city, kind of on par with Berkeley in terms of college graduates and high school graduates. One thing that you might find interesting is the English speakers, or non-English speakers in Emeryville. Where's that? So that is this, and this data is from the most recent census data, the 2010 to 2014 community survey, American Community Survey. So the total height of the bar of the two colors together represents the total percentage of the population that does not speak English at home. They may or may not know how to speak English, but they speak some other language at home. So Emeryville is about a third of our population does not speak English at home. That's a little lower than most other places locally. Berkeley, of course, Berkeley is actually lower than that. It's about 25%. Everybody else is a little higher. The overall national average is about 20%. The blue bar at the bottom, though, represents people who do not speak English very well, and what I guess I would consider to be non-English speakers. And Emeryville is actually relatively low in that regard. We're about 9%. Berkeley is a little lower than that at 7.5%, but overall the rest of the comparators here are higher than that, including Oakland, which is about 21%, and the Bay Area is about 18%. We're about on par with the national average, which is about 9%.
So I just wonder, as we look at some of these facts and trend lines, we want to know what are some of the implications for planning the city of Emeryville. That's really what it comes down to. And I don't know if council members have any observations along those lines. Some of these, I'm sure you're well aware of the facts and figures. You live it, you see it every day. What do you think it portends for our city as we think about the future, and in light of some of the things you're hoping we accomplish from a goal-setting perspective? Any reactions, any impressions that council members have from any of that data? And we certainly can bring other facts to the table, but we also don't want to get overwhelmed by it. We want to know what do we do about some of these things, and how do we plan accordingly?
I think
Scott?
You could say proportionally that we are expanding at a faster rate than our surrounding cities. And that has meaning, I think, for going forward. Because we're expanding our population at such a quick rate, that will inform some of our livability issues, and how do we live with ever-increasing density as our general plan now outlines. And how do we do that?
Good point. Yes, thank you. Ruth?
Well, along with Scott's comments, when we did the general plan update, we looked at cities that we consider to be well planned. And one of the factors of that was actually being able to have a pretty straightforward street grid, which we will be perpetually constrained by the fact that we have Interstate 80 and we have railroad tracks. And I think the increasing density, we can't talk about one without talking about the infrastructure constraints that we're faced with accommodating that.
Interesting. Good. Yeah, where you would potentially need to invest more in connectivity to facilitate the movement of this highly concentrated population. Yes, Mayor?
So just looking at my own neighborhood, and I'm literally talking about my street and the adjacent streets, I'm seeing population growth, but it's very specific. I'm seeing folks, and I've only lived in Emeryville since 2010, and we've got a high amount of turnover because there are a lot of renters in my neighborhood, even though there are a lot of single-family homes. A lot of those homes are being rented, and a lot of them are multifamily units on the same property. But what I've seen is a lot of my lower-income neighbors pushed out of their homes. I've seen on my street our poet laureate have to leave for Richmond because of her very serious rent increase. I've seen a family that went to school with my children have to leave town, and the folks that are replacing these families that are getting pushed out are more and more. I've seen a lot of Cal students. I've seen many tech workers. There's definitely, for better or for worse, there's been a change in my neighborhood, and I just want to, as we're watching the population grow and as we're planning for the future, stay mindful of those folks who are sensitive to the gentrification that we heard about in our public comment of senior citizens, of people of color, of families. And just want to think about what we can do to retain the folks who are in Emeryville and not just see this as a revolving door community.
Mm-hmm. Good, thank you. Other council member observations, questions, comments, other staff members that have some observations or trend points or fun facts to feed into the conversation to help us understand the background, the setting, and where we are today, where we might be headed. Carolyn?
Not to put her on the spot, but perhaps the chief would have some other comment pertaining to police services and public safety as we are talking about population.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. Jennifer, do you want to?
Yeah.
We have the microphone as well.
Thank you. Is it on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm the newbie at the table, and so quickly learning what a wonderful city this is. First of all, it really is a great community to be providing and providing leadership in public safety, and I think quickly becoming familiar with the neighborhoods and the people and my peers at the table. And so I just want to say, as the new person at the table, that I'm just really impressed with the leadership in Emeryville, and I think we're in good hands moving forward. And when you consider the challenges of the population growth that Charlie just put on the slide, and the level of service that's being delivered in spite of the increase in resources, the lack of increase in resources, I think that reflects very well on the staff and the leadership of this city. From the police department's perspective, our staffing has remained constant for the last 10 years, but as you saw from Charlie's slide, our population has doubled, our residential population, and then the daytime visiting and shopping working population has also increased, but we have not increased our resources. However, when you look at a 5-year view of crime, Part 1, Part 2 crimes, we're seeing almost a leveling. So we can be proud of that we're keeping crime at a reasonable, we're keeping a lid on it. But what it tells you also is that all of our resources are going into that, which leaves us no resources for things like the youth programs that I want to do, the bicycle officers that we want to have, all of those things that I think are an important component to the community that this leadership is looking for. Because, yeah.
Jennifer, can you remind everyone how many sworn officers we have in Emeryville and what your staff makeup looks like?
So we are, right now, we are authorized for 38 sworn staff, which includes me, my captain who's back here, and our 8 sergeants, and the remainder are officers. So that staffing has remained constant, I think, for about 20 years. I don't think that number has changed much. Given the demands on our services, pretty much all of those sworn positions are dedicated to daily patrol efforts. So we are creative in assigning collateral duties to people, such as the recent creation of the homeless outreach team. We have a detective and an officer assigned to that to be that consistent voice in issues around addressing the homeless presence in the community and working with Catherine over there. So it's a collaborative effort, but again, it's not a dedicated effort. We don't have a school resource officer. We did at one point have the luxury of assigning an officer there. With our new center coming online, I would love to have a youth services officer work in that capacity. We would like to do a lot of youth programs, an Explorer program, a high school intern program, a youth academy. Those are on my list. You'll see those coming through because I think it's important. We have a lot of children in this community, and I sat down with the school district, and we would love to partner and do programs. We just need to dedicate the resources to that. I do have charts that show a 5-year view of our activity in terms of response to crimes and traffic collisions. If you'd like to see those, I can put those up there. Or do we have time later?
Should we do that now?
If you'd like to have a
Daniel?
Sure, a couple of those might be helpful.
Carolyn, can I also ask that the charts that staff is sharing end up online afterwards, please?
Yes, I was thinking that the folks visiting today may take a great interest in looking back and referring to that, so we'll make sure that they're all posted.
So we'll start with there are our Part 2 crimes.
Where's the microphone?
You're going to define that, right?
So you can't read that, Ruth? These are our...
It's on.
Yeah, so these are our Part 2 crimes. We have a 5-year review. Our ability to analyze statistics is somewhat compromised by the program that we have in the police department, and I'm hoping...
Excuse me, Chief, if you could just give a quick definition of Part 2.
So Part 2 crimes are, they are the lesser serious of crimes, so they're not felonies. So up here we have like vandalism, this one, so the significant ones, forgery, quality of life ones like public drunkenness, drug abuse, driving under the influence, and so they are the low-level crimes. Okay, and so I put the numbers down here so you can see what they are annually. We're pretty much consistent with how many Part 2 crimes we have in the city.
Look at all the 5150s. That's the highest.
Yes, so did you get my email yesterday with that? So we do, and we're not unique. I think the current status of services to those individuals who have mental health issues in the country, the services are not adequate. And so by default, your police department ends up being the first responders for those individuals. So that's why that's high. But we're doing a good job, I think. We are working with, like most counties, Alameda is working with county mental health to figure out how we can better serve that community. And so you'll see a lot of resources put into that as we move forward. And so moving on to Part 1 crimes, which are then the more serious crimes, we have burglary, assault, robbery, rape. You can see that the biggest spike for us is crimes, property crimes. So we divide it into crimes against persons and property crimes, and our biggest spike is theft. So in larceny, you have grand theft, petty theft, and auto burgs. And again, there's not, well, if you look at it from a 5-year perspective, there's quite a jump, but the last 4 years, not that significant. And I can't go back 10 years because we just don't have the ability right now. Traffic collisions, you're seeing quite a reduction in 2015, so I'm guessing maybe Public Works has done a good job with street lights and conditions of the streets, doing speed analysis and all engineering. I'm guessing that has something to do with that.
Got the red light cameras.
Or because there's way more cars in the street,
Going slower.
down.
Possibly. So many factors contribute to that. Outreach from the police department on traffic safety, doing enforcement stops, having a presence, putting a ghost vehicle out, which means it's an unoccupied police vehicle in areas where there are reports of traffic issues. That can have a calming effect on traffic. Here are our traffic collisions. So, wait, no, I just did that. And then, so what are we doing in terms of enforcement? Here is the chart on our adult arrests for the last 5 years. You see a spike in misdemeanor, and those are for the property crimes primarily. We have a huge spike in theft from commercial premises, a lot of shoplifting from Target, Home Depot, Pack and Save. So we're working on a program in partnership with the DA's office to bring the commercial businesses on board to address this, to alleviate the stress it's putting on my resources in terms of the response and the time commitment to write the reports and deal with the person who's shoplifting. So we're working with the DA and the commercial community on that. And I think that's it.
Okay. Again, any questions, follow-on comments from council members, surprises? Or,
Is there a correlation between the increase in misdemeanors and the new law that essentially says, commit a misdemeanor, all we're going to do is tap you on the wrist, we're not going to charge you, we're not going to do anything?
So that's a really good question, Nora. I think you're speaking to Prop 47.
That's
yeah,
right.
so Prop 47 recategorized a lot of crimes that were felonies into misdemeanors or crimes that were wobblers that could be charged as either a felony or a misdemeanor into a misdemeanor. And so when you arrest somebody for a misdemeanor, the court has a response that's quite different to an arrest for a felony. Generally, what we saw in felony arrests for drugs, for example, was that the court would force the individual into treatment. For a misdemeanor arrest, that's not happening because the arrest is generally a cite and release, and there's no opportunity to force the person into treatment in that system. So I wouldn't, but I would be hesitant about attributing this increase in burglaries just to Prop 47. I think there are a lot of other factors, like you say, people being forced out of, homes because they can't afford to live here, and those who need services not having access to services. So I think it's a much more complex reason than that. But there is a lot of movement. So California Police Chiefs Association is looking at Prop 47, gathering statistics from all of the municipalities in California, and we usually have to rely on the FBI for our statistics to know what happened in previous years, and they're usually 2 years behind. So what we're doing at Cal Chiefs is we're collecting the information as it happens each month. So at the end of the year, and probably this month, we can go back and look at post Prop 47 to see what are the actual impacts of that and not be assuming it's this or that. The other thing that we are seeing a lot of movement around, and in Emeryville too, is our response to those people who have a drug addiction, and looking at it from a health perspective versus a criminal perspective, because we see that when we address it as a crime, we're not making any impact. That it is an addiction and it is a health issue. So we need to incorporate that into our response to people who are doing drugs.
Okay.
Chief,
go ahead, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
If you don't know right off the hand, it's just a request for information. I'd like to know, let's say over the last 10 years, what our response to domestic violence incidents have been, and whether we've seen spike, steady, decrease, whatever.
And I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Okay, thank you.
I was just wondering if you could touch on any other factors that you might think be affecting the rise in larceny in 2015. Perhaps groups of folks who are organizing to target shoplifters or target shoppers, because I just as someone who lives in a neighborhood in Emeryville, I haven't seen the activity rise in my own neighborhood, and I try to keep up with online Facebook groups for the surrounding Oakland neighborhoods and in Emeryville, and so I haven't seen an uptick personally, just in our residential part. So I just want to see if you have any insight into the areas where folks are shopping.
Into who's committing the crimes?
Yeah, into who's committing the crimes, what the nature of the crimes are, what you think might be the reason for the uptick in 2015, because a couple of slides back, it rose dramatically.
So part of it is the reclassification of crimes. So some of the crimes that were felonies pre-Prop 47 are now misdemeanors. So those people who would be incarcerated are no longer incarcerated. So they are back on the street committing the same crimes to possibly feed their drug habit, or because that's their lifestyle is, to go around and steal other people's properties. We've seen a big spike in car burglaries this year, but with collaborative efforts, we have a great detective unit. A lot of the ghost town, it's the ghost town gang who live, some of them on our border. 9 of the leaders of that gang were arrested about a month ago. And so we're working on 2 other projects right now, investigations, identifying those people who are responsible, who like to come to Emeryville to target victims here. Part of the issue when you're dealing with commercial crime is we rely on the commercial businesses to partner with us so that they put measures in place that prevent the crime, and so we're working on that also. So it's a combination of things.
Well, thank you for your efforts.
Okay.
I look forward to seeing the 2016 numbers.
So back to council members too, here in a moment, but we'll take your comment. Yes, ma'am.
Sharon Wilshire. I'm just curious about something. You've mentioned 3 properties that are at East Bay Bridge, and we do have a joint powers of agreement for that property with Oakland. Target is actually in Oakland. Is the Emeryville Police Department the go-to, though, for the entire project?
For crime that occurs in Target, yes.
All right, and as well, all right. And even though the others sort of straddle the Oakland, Emeryville? Go ahead. All right, I mean, I'm just curious about that.
We have a memorandum of understanding with Oakland that we've signed concerning East Bay Bridge Shopping Center. There's also a formal JPA that comprises the two cities. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't have it memorized, but I do believe that the MOU calls for Emeryville to provide first response to the entire center, regardless of what city it's in.
Okay, good. So back to council members, and we want to continue not only with the issue of safety, obviously, but all the issues and challenges. You mentioned some of these issues earlier, like public safety, infrastructure, and we want to get a good sense of the council's take on those pressing issues. But yes, go ahead, Scott.
I just had a question for the chief. Has our police response time been measured in the past? And if it has been measured, have you seen any changes in our police response time?
Has it been measured in the past? I don't know, but I'll get back to you, and so therefore I can't answer question 2. Okay. But I imagine we're 1.2 square miles. I would venture to guess there is really nothing to discuss around the issue of response time, because it doesn't take us very long to get where we need to go. There may be exceptions to that, but I'll look into it and see if we can measure that for you.
I have a question for
yes.
the chief. We have a very large number of security guards in the city of Emeryville, probably 10 times what the police force is. We used to have a security coalition that would meet, and that fell by the wayside. I think it's important that we take a look at that and see if we can't reinstitute that, because that would leverage the resources that we have. So I just want to bring that up.
So we have
we had a security guard coalition that met on a monthly basis with the police department, went over trends, et cetera, communication with all the different security forces in town. They're here, they're present, they're being paid. They clearly don't come up to the level of a sworn officer, but they're a useful resource. So I'd like to see if we can take a look at that again.
We actually have restarted the security coalition.
Oh, we had it for years.
Yeah, but we've started it again.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Yes, so it's important, and we've started that. We're enhancing our partnership with Bay Street Management. We've also created a liaison officer program for the marina. I've met with both management of both marinas. We've come up with a list of ways to improve security down there. So, you know, we're moving forward with all of this collaboration that, you're right, is really important for us to be able to keep a lid on it.
Really leverage the city's resources. There was a comment back here as well on the same subject.
Yeah, my name's Jennifer Nettles, and I manage Bay Street, and I have to say, thoroughly impressed. I'm new here. We had some preventative measures that we worked on with tenants directly. Chief came to the office, community liaison all the way. Kudos.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, that's the coalition in action. You take it. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Judy Timmel. Hi, Jennifer. Just one question. We haven't talked anything about the elephant in the room, which is anti-police violence movement. I wonder if you could just say briefly if and how you are addressing these concerns of the community. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, a really good question, and I can spend the rest of our 3 hours answering it, because we might agree that it's worthy of at least 3 hours of discussion. You know, it's a dialogue that's happening nationally. It's not just in Emeryville, and we had an incident last year that threw Emeryville into that spotlight. I just want to say that the Emeryville Police Department was very well run before I came here and made very good hiring decisions. So I think that you are blessed with a police department that has good people, people who have heart, people who come to work to do their jobs with the best of intentions every day. I think they are the consummate public servants in every sense of the word. I'm immensely impressed with them. And so why are we part of the national dialogue, and what do we do? I think as leaders, we must always be self-reflective. We must always look, even if we are not the cause of an issue or we have no dog in the fight, we should always be self-reflective. So coming in and looking at everything, I see a great police department. I see great people working there. I see a community that is very supportive, 85% last time it was checked of the police department. So we could say, well, let's just sit back. We've got it all covered. We don't have anything to worry about. But that wouldn't be good leadership. Good leadership is self-reflective, always thinking, how can we do better? How can we serve better? And so in the context of that, what I have done is taken our policy manual, and we're doing a complete review of our department policy manual, because that policy manual, it's our guiding force in terms of how we do things. What procedures do we use? What are the legislative guides in there? What are the mandates that we need to be mindful of? What's the case law around issues? And so in Emeryville, we have a public safety committee, which is the place where this review is happening. And we've jumped right in at the deep end. We're reviewing use of force. We're reviewing firearms policy. We are reviewing use of canine. So we've jumped in the deep end, and we're not shying away from these controversial topics because we want to do it right. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are serving Emeryville and our visitors to the best of our ability. And is there room for improvement? Absolutely. There always is. And so I invite you to come to the public safety meeting. There's opportunity for change, and I have no hesitation being the leader of that change and improvement. So thanks for that question.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And
Carolyn?
anyone who does want to participate in any of our community meetings, including the public safety one, can ask the chief, myself. We also have Vice Mayor Donahue and Nora Davis, councilwoman, who lead that committee, who could answer and provide the specifics on how to participate.
Second Thursday at 11 a.m. at the police station. Be there.
Okay.
There you go.
So in the interest of being complete, comprehensive, again, I want to make sure we hear from the council about all of the things that keep you up at night, that you worry about as you hear from citizens, as you walk the streets, you live, work, and operate here in the city of Emeryville. What do you think are our big picture issues? Safety and livability have been mentioned, infrastructure that is constantly in need of replacement on a systematic basis. You brought up the constrained street grid. I mean, what are some of the things that you feel we are compelled to address that will define our success in the future? We've had a lot of things to be proud of, but going forward, we can't rest. So what are some of those major points?
I think another key area that we've touched on that we'd like to give a little bit further attention to would be in the area of public works. Right. As you said, the infrastructure, capital projects, and so on. And preparing for this session, Maurice and I have had some great discussions about what is happening and things that we would just like to remind the community and City Council of, that perhaps Maurice could speak to.
Okay. Sure, thanks, Carolyn. So as you know, in June of 2014, the City Council adopted a capital improvement program. It was the first program that the City Council had adopted since December of 2006. So it was like a 7.5-year gap in approving a 5-year program. In particular, we hadn't adopted a program during those years because of the dissolution of redevelopment. We didn't know how much funding we were going to have to be able to appropriate for all these projects. With that said, the program that was adopted was about 80 projects on the list. About $86 million of funding was appropriated for those projects. And I should say, for a fun fact, that about 25% of that funding that was appropriated was towards bicycle and pedestrian-related projects. We have the South Bayfront Bridge, which is about $16 million appropriation, and a bunch of smaller projects amounting to about almost $10 million in bike projects like the Christie Avenue Bay Trail, some of the segments of the Greenway that are remaining, the Horton Landing Park. So we are doing a good part in trying to improve the walkability, pedestrian, bicycle aspect of the city. With the CIP that was adopted, we have worked on quite a number of those projects. We have a lot of them underway, a lot of them nearing completion. And we have plenty to do over the next year or two with the projects that are already funded. We have, in addition to the projects that are already funded, we have a $50 million project getting started for the Ashby Interchange. And we're working directly with ACTC to get that going. We're probably going to let them take the lead on that because really we don't have the staff to take on a $50 million project, but we're going to need to attend a lot of meetings there and work with the ACTC. With that, we're going to talk later about some additional projects we probably want to think about prioritizing to include in the CIP. And if you have any questions, I'm willing to take them.
And just as a side comment, as Maurice and I engaged in discussion and debate about managing all the things that Public Works entails, capital projects is a major area. I really appreciate the work that the council subcommittee puts into helping us set those priorities and monitor our progress. But we may want to talk further about the process of identifying our capital projects, but also the process of prioritizing them, funding them, and making sure that you are satisfied with the progress that we are making, because it goes directly to the question of budgeting resources. And we may have a few concerns in that area. So I'd be very interested in the council's comment about your level of satisfaction with how we are able to move those projects forward given the current resources that we do have.
Okay, good. Any comments on that from the city council members? Ways of improving?
Actually, we want it all.
There was that assumption by
We have to pay for it.
staff. In terms of the process for the CIP, you were asking, Carolyn, are there any things you would suggest or point to as a way we can improve on the process?
Should we have a separate CIP meeting, just for CIP?
Yeah. Okay.
After lunch, probably.
Okay.
That's a big discussion.
So, again, back to the global picture as well. Any other issues that we need to put on the table? Yes, Mayor.
So one thing that I'd like to put into the category of major issues and challenges is just, in general, our economic development. Just echoing back to something that Councilmember Asher said earlier, how do we pay for all of the things that we need and want in our community? How much of a focus do we put into that area? How many resources do we give staff in terms of letting them go out and seek opportunities for Emeryville to grow and diversify our businesses? For instance, we no longer have a Chamber of Commerce. What can we do to support our small businesses, attract more small businesses, and make sure that they thrive in our community?
Other items?
Let me just
Charlie?
note that at the
The council has directed us to schedule a joint meeting with the Planning Commission to brainstorm ways to support the small business community. The time, place, and details of that meeting haven't been firmed up yet, but we'll certainly keep you informed as that gets developed sometime in the spring.
Okay, good. Jack?
Just two things to add in terms of major issues and challenges facing the city. Nora always says this, but I'm going to take this from you, Nora, and that's our emergency preparedness in case of a natural disaster. In particular, that's something I'm concerned about. And also something that all of us have spoken of at the dais, which is affordability in Emeryville. It contributes to the massive turnover of our population. It destabilizes our schools, and I think it makes planning for our future really difficult. So that's another key challenge that I think we're facing.
Right. Yes,
I
Maurice.
have one more thing to remind everybody. You know, the City Council adopted a climate action plan not too long ago, and, you know, we're supposed to reach a goal by 2020, which is coming very close. But we want to really have some input from the City Council as to how aggressive we want to be in implementing that.
Good.
Right.
So the challenge is, I take it, to fulfill all the goals and objectives of that. Especially in light of competing priorities. So it's interesting, back on what Jack was saying earlier, just a minute ago, the affordability, you know, because you've done a good job, the city's desirable, so there's more desire to be here, which pushes prices up and can push people out. So obviously that continuing pressure there is going to be with us. Pedro, you had a comment as well? Yes.
I just wanted to put out a few trends on the Community Services Department. Pedro Jimenez, Community Services Director. I'm also a newbie, been here about 10 months, and wanted to echo a few things that Jennifer, the chief, said about the city being a great city, and there's a lot of opportunities here, and actually appreciate the support from council on all these services that are provided to the community. A few things about youth services. The program has grown, and probably have to give a lot of credit to Cindy over here, implementing the sliding scale. Since 2013, I think there was 80 in the after-school program. In 2014, about 150. And this year at 2015, around September through December, we got up to 220 kids serving in the after-school program. So it's been growing. There is a demand. The sliding scale is a big factor for those increases. We have a lot of other great programs that are offered there. You know, micro soccer, dance classes. You have a Kinder Buddy program. It's like a Tiny Tot program. It's affordable for the community to have this for a 3-hour-a-day program for 3 days a week. We have actually an Emeryville recreational basketball team, which is 7th and 8th graders that attend tournaments and leagues. Our senior center, adult services, we have over 1,500 members at the senior center. They go on 12 trips a month. And there's over 300 trips provided on the 8-to-go, over 300 programming hours that include fitness, wellness, computers, and you're reaching an age that appeals to 50s, 60s, 70s, and 90s and 100-year-olds that come to the center. Currently, the senior center is under construction. Hopefully, it'll be opening sometime in March. It's going to hopefully increase seniors coming out, but also our opportunity to do rentals. The ECDC, the Child Development Center, we have currently about 74 students at the center. That is our capacity based on staffing right now. We have gone and discussed and have some future reorgs that are going to be coming back to council for additional staffing to be able to provide quality programming for the center and increase the adequate staffing needing to provide quality care. ECCL, as mentioned earlier, is coming on board, and we're going to be bringing back aquatics, which hopefully will be opening in April and May. The gym just opened this last week on Wednesday. The high school started using it for their practices and games. There was a game on Thursday, the girls basketball team. We'll be offering additional services like open gym for basketball and volleyball, and also rent it out to other organizations to create additional revenue for the facility rentals. We'll have our after-school program and summer camp moved to the site there. And so there's a lot of great things happening. You know, there's grants that we have to offer free services at the senior center through AAA grant that provide that opportunity. There's transportation money that's also being done there. Kind of to tie in earlier, going back to ECDC and Charlie's conversation about language, just a fun fact that at our center there, the languages spoken are Tagalog, Mandarin, Spanish, Dutch, French, and German, and Russian. So it's a wide variety of people that are coming through this community and living here or working here. So we provide a lot of great services, and I can see it continuing to grow. And so just wanted to share a few of those facts.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Pedro. Any questions on that or follow-up points? Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'll bring you the microphone, too.
Thank you. Brad Gunkel, Planning Commission Chair. Just to speak to some of the major issues and challenges I know we've been facing, I think one of them is accommodating the increased residential density in a way that nurtures community and helps to increase safety and also to support the local businesses, local retail. The revitalization of San Pablo Avenue, I think it's an opportunity. You know, we're constantly looking to create a commercial corridor or a commercial area in our town or local commercial area, and we already have one. It's just I think we need to exploit it, take advantage of the opportunity that already exists there physically. The integration of affordability, inclusionary housing, really making that our priority and looking at the statistics and making our decisions based on the best way to really bring the affordability into the envelope in the fabric of the community and not isolate it or create it separately. An increased sense of identity, something I know a number of you know that I have been pushing for, including whether that's streetscapes. I mean, such a great job's been done on Park, and if we can do something similar throughout the community, even if we pick away at it piece by piece, and also kind of landmarks, gateways, just ways for people to know when you're entering Emeryville. The preservation and heritage of the kind of existing buildings of significant, insignificant structures in this town, and then utilizing that heritage to kind of build upon for a unique character as we move forward. So we're not just looking like another, another Mission Bay or another, part of the Bay Area, but actually something unique. Really creating a mixed-use environment, one where people are working and living, hopefully both in the same community, and then also really creating a socially invested population here, one that isn't a bedroom community, one that isn't transient, and really focusing on that.
Those are some terrific additions. Any more points to add from the City Council? It's a big set of things, so there's obviously more work to be done, but that's why we're here. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Farrell. I just wanted to mention something I had forgotten to mention, is that I know that you all are looking into a short-term subletting, such as the Airbnb and the other companies that do that. It can have a very negative effect on our community. We have finally gotten them out of Watergate, that we have no more sublets like hotels there, but we hope that the City of Emeryville will continue to work toward legislation, ordinances that will govern such hotel-type rentals in the homes of our community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I am Laura McCamey. I'm a member of the BPAC, and I just wanted to say that one of the issues the BPAC has been looking at for a while that's become, as congestion in the Bay Area has gotten more extreme, is that a lot of cars use our bike boulevard, Horton Street, as a freeway alternative. And cars that are, people that are working in the area generally share that road fairly nicely with the bicycles, but people who are looking at it as a freeway are a real menace to bicycles on what's supposed to be our safest street. So there's a big project coming up that we're going to look at doing some traffic calming and I just want to say that I hope that we look at that also system-wide through the city as we get more traffic. And I think Councilmember Donahue addressed this as well, that's really important to us on the BPAC, is how do we encourage people to use car streets and create safe spaces where bicyclists and pedestrians can really have priority.
Excellent. Yeah, key aspect of livability. And, you know, a lot of cities are adopting that Vision Zero concept of no more accidents. You know, pedestrian bicycle safety goes hand in hand with that. Any other things from the council that, I mean, we try to fill in the board here, not to be overwhelmed by all of that in the purple, but we do want to make sure we have a good starting point.
12:30.
Yes.
12:30.
Yeah, we're 15 minutes late.
We're
Well,
shooting over.
that's right. We started a little late, but that's okay. We're going to make up time, and we'll be right on schedule in the end. So are we ready to take lunch break? And then
yes, we're ready to take a lunch break, and if we could have the council members kind of lead the way. There is lunch food for everybody. We've set aside the council members' lunches. Your names are on it. And if you could just lead the way, then that way we can get started.
And then come back here.
Come back here.
To your place, and we'll get.
You can just eat at your place.
Absolutely.
But there will be lunch provided for everyone.